Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this career Q&A session. This is part of a series of Q&As, interviews with members of the Regal Tech Mentoring Programme, designed hopefully to give you all a little bit more insight into a whole variety of tech careers. I'm joined today by Dita Pesek, who is a cybersecurity consultant, more appropriately a pen tester, I guess, with the company WithSecure. Hi Dita, how's it going?
Hello, very well.
Good. I guess the best place to start is if you could give us an overview really of what you do on a typical day. What is a day in life of a pen tester? What does that actually mean?
Yes, definitely. Well, our days are very different every day because we are in consultancy, so we work on a lot of different projects, which is a bit different than when you are in-house. So basically, our project generally lasts about 1 week or two. Sometimes they are longer, but not as much. And we work with variety of teams. So I have a lot of different team members. And basically, we just, how it works, well, we have a scoping calls with the client. We assess what they want us to test. And then we get on the test and generally spend a few days on testing and then produce reports for them. And it's quite a lot of sometimes it's quite a lot of back and forth to tell them what we discovered. And we basically work together with the client to help them improve their security.
Excellent. And what would you say is the best thing about the job? What do you like most about being working in cybersecurity?
Yeah. I think because the job is not always the same. You need to do quite a lot of upskilling, but I'm finding once you have the foundation, it's more like fun upskilling into more things that are current. So you have to stay very current with the tech, and I find that very exciting. And you have quite a lot of autonomy, mostly in consultancy. So you can, at least in a company I work for, you can design your career, you can go in directions you want. So I think in that sense, it's a great way to learn as much as you can, as quickly as you can.
Yeah, you talked there about staying current with the tech. One of the things, I guess, which sometimes the perception is that women are harder for women to enter certain industries, certain role types where the tech knowledge is a prerequisite and really high. How much did you have to know about tech and architecture and things before you could start your career as a pen tester?
Oh, quite. I had previous about a year in the industry. So I started in network engineering, where I worked at Cisco as an intern for like about 11 months. And then I went into IT support, which was all right. And I have also CCNA, so I had quite good foundation in networking. And you basically need something. You need to either understand networking or understand how Windows, Linux works, or understand application development. You can step into cybersecurity from any of these angles, but the thing with cybersecurity is you have to understand what you're trying to secure. So you have to have definitely a foundation in how technology operates in a broad sense, because otherwise the upskilling would be so probably undoable because you would need a lot of time to actually pick up everything.
Yeah, and in terms of those fundamentals that you mentioned, it doesn't sound like you need severely in-depth knowledge and years of experience to be able to make that move into that role. But where do you think is the best place to kind of learn those fundamentals? Is it through courses? Is it through work experience? What would you say?
There are a few ways in. One is through university. If you have computer science degree, a lot of companies have graduate schemes that they took people on in cybersecurity with computer science degree. If you don't have that, then generally there are two really good resources, which is Hack the Box. I would say if you do Hack the Box and put it on your CV, clients start being interested. They see that you are actually interested in hacking. I think this is offensive security. I don't have that much knowledge with the defense, but I assume it's going to be similar because you need to understand the attacks. So Hack the Box, and then if you are looking into application security, it's Burp Suite. They have Academy online, Portswing. So that one will give you really good foundation in application security. So I would say, just from my experience coming into this industry, these are two the most important resources that client notice if you don't have any other experience.
Yeah, and yeah, we're talking cyber quite generally here, but your role is specifically pen testing. Where does that sit in relation to the other cyber roles, and why do you feel that you've chosen, that piece of it in the red or blue team as opposed to the other side of the fence?
Well, in a way, it chose me, because I applied for a job, I got it. Like, I think that in the first 2 years of your career, you don't have that much choice, because like you don't get approached as much for different roles. But I'm actually really happy that this happened, because I find that the offensive security suits me really well, more than the blue teaming, defensive side. Just because I find that with blue teams, you also need to also the work-life balance is a bit different, as you work on shifts sometimes, or you need to work at night, not with all the jobs, but it seems to be more relevant to those jobs. And the offensive security is just faster. It's just much it's a, like, I think it suits people who like adrenaline and who enjoy achieving things very quickly. So I think in the long run, that's why I'm quite glad I ended up in the red side of the things.
Yeah, so when you talk about red team and blue team, then so red team is the offensive side, which is more about kind of trying to break in and testing the systems that exist, and blue team is more about protecting the company from those kind of attacks.
Yes, basically.
Yeah.
That's,
okay.
That's
and
what it is.
in terms of personality type and skills and things, what do you see as the difference between those two teams, and what kind of people are successful on each side of the fence?
I don't think that it's as much as skill wise, because generally you can do both jobs in with the same skill set. Because like, as we know, technology that changes so quickly that, as you said, like if someone has 25 years of experience, those 25 years are great, but you have to keep on being current. So it's more about how you can progress, how you can keep on staying current. I think that's the most important skill that you need to have. The underlying skill, if you have foundation, you can build on it. I think that's quite important thing. That's why it's sometimes quite interesting to see some job specs where they need so much of things. But the problem is, like, things change, what is current now will not be current in a year's time. So I think it's more about personality. You really have to understand that this job will not be same. It will keep on changing. Mostly now with AI coming into play, I think our job will change a lot. We will definitely add on like the offensive security for AI, which is something that we are trying to all discover right now and learn. So I wouldn't be that worried about the kind of be so great at the skills right now. It's more about be good at learning and improving.
Yeah, and you mentioned AI there, and that's obviously an area of tech that you're going to have to learn to, well, if you're in the blue team, protect the company against, and if you're in the red team, understand how you can break into it. But do you see any risk of AI, replacing you in terms of the job that you do? Like, could a learning algorithm work out how to?
Yes, that's an interesting question. I definitely think some parts of my job can be replaced by AI, but then you have to monitor AI, so you will always have this kind of problem that you can never replace people. It's just the way you use the human power in any job, because I think this is going to affect so many different jobs, the AI coming into our workplace. So it's difficult to actually say what's going to happen, but definitely, like, I don't think any industry will become obsolete. It's just there will be different way of working.
Yeah, no, I agree. We spoke a bit about obviously the routes in and the kind of courses and things that people that are starting that career can do, but in terms of the ways to approach that, what role did other people play in your progress so far? Have you done it all through your own efforts, or have you had other people supporting you through this?
Oh, through the process of getting into tech, you mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, well, definitely. You cannot do it on your own. Mostly if you are entering into new industry, because for me it was a career change. Of course, entering this kind of industry as a woman, it carries a lot of other things with it because you have to be in male-dominated environment, and you need to be able to deal with it. So I find that support of your colleagues is very important. And I was lucky in the workplaces where I worked that I generally got it and I felt welcome. So I think it was mostly people who I met at the workplaces, both at Cisco and now in WithSecure, who has been incredible support. Because I don't like, even though working in tech can be very lonely sometimes because you work on your own, in a way it's a collaboration, it's a teamwork, and you really need a good team around you who can help you and encourage you and inspire you. So I think that's another thing that when you're looking for a job that you should try to pick up during the interviews, if that's the team that will give you that. And mostly the more you progress, the more choices you have. I think that's like the most vital part of an interview for you to assess that.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. So I think when we first spoke, we spoke about whether the role is heavily team focused or quite independent. And you mentioned one of the things you like is that you're not overly managed. It's kind of a problem solving role. You use your own intuition to kind of work out the best way to interact with that customer and try and test their systems. But how much of that role then how does that work in terms of a team setup if it is quite an independent role?
Because like we can work fully remote. So it's like we have really heavy presence on Slack and talk to people on Slack every day. So it's more kind of virtual support. So if you have any kind of question, you are unsure with something, you just put it into one of the Slack forums and people get back to you. So in that way, you will work autonomously unless you heard some really big hurdle, and then you search for help. I think consultancy is interesting because it teaches you a lot of other skills than just technical. One of them is to ask for help because otherwise it will be very tough. And you definitely need those kind of like people skills. And I think that now in tech, it's more than ever that the other skills are also quite important, the soft skills. That a lot of companies hire on personality, which was also the case of WithSecure, because they just want people to fit in a team and have the same kind of approach. I think the good thing about cybersecurity is that people who are in it, they actually really want to be in it and enjoy the job, because otherwise it wouldn't be possible. You would just start hating it. So therefore, like I think companies are really willing to let you work autonomously and organize your own time because they know it's actually your hobby in a way.
Yeah, no, cool. You brought up the topic of it being a male-dominant environment a minute ago. One of the questions we had from the ladies that I can see is joining the call is Chiara. And I think the tech industry is often portrayed as being very male-dominated. There are certain barriers that women face. Chiara, would you know if you've overcome any or consciously overcome any specific challenges related to the fact that it's quite a male-dominated environment?
Yeah, there definitely are, even though I think it's so much better than it used to be. Like you don't get any, or I haven't experienced any direct discrimination. Well, after Me Too movement happened. Before that, there was quite a lot of it. And I think there is one kind of skill that I think women need to have in comparison to male colleagues. It's confidence. Like you need to really step into this industry as a confident female, because you in a way need to fight for yourself and find your own way within your own mind in this environment. Because you get a lot of support during interview process. I find you don't get that much support after you are in the company. And then it's really about developing your relationship with the colleagues and be able to navigate through the company politics. So, and I found it a lot, like going to a lot of meetups with women in tech or women in cybersecurity, that they are very specific characters. They are generally very strong women, or like those kind of characters that are outgoing. So I think that's one of the things I definitely noticed, that the confidence is important, and it's just because of the environment.
Yeah. And while we're on this theme, I think I'll let Greg ask the question himself because he can probably better articulate the background that he's coming from.
Mm.
Do you want to fire away, Greg?
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. So Dita, I'm coming from the background as a CIO in a large organization, and one of the areas that I've worked in for many years is mental health support for cybersecurity professionals. It's a very, it's a 24/7 job. You're constantly on the back foot. There's a lot of finger pointing. So a lot of the work that I do is at the board level, where I'm trying to educate board members on the need for mental health support for cybersecurity, and not just when there's a data breach or an incident, but all the time.
Yeah.
What areas of support do you think are most needed for women in cybersecurity roles?
Yeah, I really don't think it's only just for women, like because I have a therapy background. I ran a hypnotherapy practice for 5 years, specializing in anxiety. So I have quite a lot of experience in this field. And I actually found that I started to submit talks for different technology conferences surrounding the subject of stress and anxiety. And there has been really huge kind of response, like positive response, that people want to talk about it, which I was quite surprised about. And so I think that the answer is there. It's communication. Like, I think companies just need to realize that employees will not tell their HR that they are not happy or they are going through something. They will sometimes not tell it to their line manager because they are worried that it's going to affect their performance or how they are viewed. So I think it's quite a radical approach, but I know that some companies already do it. Just have an in-house therapist, have someone who is absolutely safe and people can go and talk to. And it really makes a huge difference, just someone knowing that they are listened to, and then they have that support. I think on a long run, that would make a lot of difference and make a lot of actually people stay with the company. Because it's very often, like I know from my therapy background, people just, even if they are able to talk, they solve a lot of their problems. It's that inability to be able to express themselves, and definitely mostly in cybersec, like that is sometimes so quick. And yeah, if you have an incident, if you are an incident response, like you can go through a lot of stress.
I think having that for employees to have that sense of psychological safety in the workplace is critical for especially for retention, as you said. Yeah. Because I think cyber has one of the biggest attrition rates out of all of the tech roles, purely because of mental health and stress.
Yeah. I think on the levels of where you are on the blue side, I think you have so much more pressure there. Mostly the more you progress in the role. Yeah, definitely something needs to change because there will be not enough people, because it's quite easy then to switch to another role within technology. But yeah, I think that the approach just needs to change from the company side and understand that they have to support people. They like, it's not enough to give them gym memberships. They also need to look after their mind.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Dita. That's really good.
Okay.
Excellent. Alina's asked a question in the chat. I think she just wants to double back on some of the context around getting into the industry.
Yeah.
I know that when we spoke, and you mentioned it here, that you've got CCNA, which is not, obviously it's not a cybersecurity qualification, but it's a networking qualification that gives you the base knowledge to understand the tech side of things. But are you aware of other common cybersecurity specific qualifications, or do you think that getting those other tech qualifications that gives you the base knowledge are more important than a cyber specific training?
I think for the UK, I don't think there's that many qualifications that matter as much. It's more about, at least what I've seen from hiring and talking to hiring managers, it's more about people showing their interest in cyber and actually showing that they are doing the hacking and they understand the vulnerabilities and how to hack certain systems. Qualification will not give you that, or any cert will not give you that. Like, I know that a lot of people go for Security Plus. I had it as well. It made absolutely no difference. Like, CCNA did, because CCNA is very difficult exam, and once you do it, you understand networking. Like there is no way you can pass it unless you understand networking. It took me a year to get it. It's that kind of exam that you need to really learn for. But I also found a lot of, like, I had one guy who I was mentoring and to help him to get into cybersec, and he came from different role in technology. And I just told him, as I said, just do Hack the Box, do the Burp Suite Academy, and that's enough. And he managed to get in a role within like half a year. So I think the better approach is get into any role in tech, because it's so much easier to pivot afterwards, because you are already gaining experience about anything you work for, even if it's Active Directory, or you help to fix something small on Windows, I don't know, but you're still gaining the knowledge that you will need for cybersecurity. So that was my approach. That's why I took the internship at Cisco in network engineering, even though I knew that I don't want to do it long term. And then I went into IT support because I knew, okay, I don't really want to do that, but it will be so much easier to pivot from that role. And it happened.
Yeah, I think it's a great approach as well, because we all know you don't know when you start your career exactly what you want to do.
Yeah.
And if you specialize too much too early, you might end up going down a path that you just don't enjoy. Whereas if you get into the industry and have keep your options open in terms of, I understand this and it's going to help me get into these other roles if I want to, it gives you more choices, doesn't it, going forward, I guess, rather than putting all your eggs in that one basket.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't focus that much on certs unless it's like CCNA, or do some cloud certs, because cloud is getting really big in cybersecurity. Like I specialize in cloud, and then I do F security. I do hardly any network security because I just don't enjoy it. And now I'm trying to get more into AI. So there are just even so many different little fields within the cybersecurity that as you said, you need to work within. You need to work with the tech to know, hey, I enjoy this part. I want to go in this direction. And I think if you have a choice of employment, if you have more offers, go for a company that offers you this kind of flexibility, that you can pivot your career in a way you feel like it's good for you. Because I think at the beginning, the first 3 years, it's so important.
Yeah, you mentioned there a couple of areas that you're personally choosing to specialize in. I think it's important that we encourage people to look at the longer term career, not just the next job. So if somebody was getting into a role in cyber, either blue or red teams, what do you see as the career paths and the potential for progression within that field?
Yeah, I think it depends, like which way people feel like they want to go. A lot of people want to go into red team. I don't at all. I don't really enjoy that kind of try to hack something for days. So for those kind of roles, yeah, the network security is quite important. But if you want to stay current, I would go look more into cloud and just get like cloud certs as, I don't know, Azure administrator or solution architect for AWS. Don't look at the specific security role, security certs. Go for rather the administration certifications, because that helps you to actually understand the broader picture. And even like look into DevOps, because once you understand how the pipelines work, it's so much easier to actually protect them. So you can also take this approach if the cloud is something that speaks to you, it did from the beginning. So I always was pushing, I want to do cloud, which happened in my current job. So I think it's more about exploration and not being that rigid about things. Do what you enjoy. Like if you enjoy it, you're gonna learn it. And once you're learning, you can talk about it and people hear it. They hear your enthusiasm and they will employ you because they know you will keep on learning. It's more about that, I think, and mostly going forward in like how the employment is gonna be, because it's gonna be so much more about people skills and about people.
Yeah, you talked there about keep on learning. So what resources, what methods do you use to keep your finger on the pulse and make sure that you are moving at the same speed the industry's moving at, or being one step ahead?
Yeah, I think that like before I stepped into this role, I was very thorough in how I was learning. Now, because everything is so quick, you just somehow naturally learn how to omit information that you don't need, and you just go for the most important core of the information. And I think that just comes with being chucked into very fast environment and adjusting your way of learning. You don't need to know that much. I think that more important than learning is note writing. Like, get really good at making notes of what you discover, what you learn, because you will not be able to remember it with like amount of information that you absorb. And mostly in consultancy with so many different projects, it's so crucial to be able to go back to your notes and look for that specific information you need. So I always make sure I make notes when I learn, like proper good notes that are very concise and just have the pinpoint, the most important things.
Yeah, excellent advice. Chiara's just asked another question about accreditation. So you said that security things in your perception aren't that important, but she's seen a lot of adverts where they're requesting either CISSP if it's a hands-on role or CISM if it's a management role.
Yeah.
Do you see that within your company, and do you think that there are ways for people to apply for jobs that ask for those accreditations if they don't actually have them?
Yeah, there is. Like, it also depends on companies. Some companies are very anal, you know, and they just ask for things that they're actually not as needed when the person can do the job. But I think it's then about finding a company who is okay with not having certs, you know, like my company is. It's more about what you are capable of doing. Even like, I know that I have to pivot myself slightly outside the pen testing because I don't want to do CRT or OSCP. I'm really not interested in those certs, and most of the pen testing jobs require those. That's why I'm pivoting more towards cloud and AI, where it's going to be so much more open. But I think it's, if you feel like that's the role you really want and you keep on seeing those certs, yeah, then do it. It's more about like your preference and where you want to pivot your career. For me, it was more into cloud, so yeah, so I'm avoiding those other certs because I really don't need them.
Yeah, I think as well as a recruiter, my experience tells me that, like you say, companies will on a job spec or an advert ask for everything that they think the perfect candidate will have. But they're 9 times out of 10 be open to some flexibility on that. So if you do see a job advert where you think I could do this job, but I don't have those letters after my name, it's definitely worth A, applying, but B, following up that application by reaching out to the person that you think's advertised a job, either the HR team or the potential line manager, and just asking the question and just saying, you know, I've got all the required experience, but I don't have the qualification. Would you be open to a candidate like myself, or you know, what alternative experience would you take in place of that qualification? Because I think, you know, just by engaging with them on a human one-to-one basis, you've got much more chance of them actually acknowledging your application and reading it and giving you consideration, not ranking you just based on these 4 or 5 letters that they're asking for on the job spec.
Yeah, no, that is a great advice, because I find the same. Like, even though they don't have immediately the position that they feel like you are good for, maybe in 2 years there will be something perfect for you. So just developing those relationships, I think it's very, very important, and keeping them. And like, now I learned that if I just like the job, I just click apply, you know, like the worst that can happen, they will not get back and say no. Like, nothing worse can happen, really.
Yeah, no, that's a very good attitude to have. We're coming close to the end of the time, so unless anybody else has any questions, I'll leave it a few seconds for anyone that's joined us today to pop their hand up or start typing in the chat. Otherwise, I think, yeah, really insightful session. Dita, thank you very much. Chiara is typing. I'm going to wait to see if she's got a question or if she just wants to say thank you. She's just saying thank you. There we go.
Thank you.
But no, it's great. So yeah, thanks.
And
for your time.
I'm on LinkedIn. If anyone wants to get in touch, just search for Dita Pesek and just send me a message. I'll respond.
When we share this, we'll share this on YouTube, and we'll put your LinkedIn profile in the title. A lady called Liz has put her hand up. Liz, do you want to come off mute and ask a question?
Yeah, I'm off mute. So it's just about Dita, you said reaching out to the recruiters about, you know, whether, you know, about the job. So I just wanted to know, how would you go about reaching out to the recruiters? I find it a bit tricky. Like, how would you reach out to them?
Yeah, I would just be very upfront. I would say I saw this job. I have these kinds of skills that I think will fit. Would you consider me for the role? Like, just be very brief and very to the point. Again, the only thing they will do is not get back to you. I also find that sometimes it's easier to contact a company directly and the hiring managers within the company. Mostly if you are a woman, they are quite open to talk to you, or like it's easier to start the conversation because they are looking for. It's good to be woman in this industry for this reason. People talk to you, so
yeah,
use it.
I think applying for a job these days is so easy that any company that gets applicants will get a lot of people who are really genuinely keen on the role and have the right experience and interested, and then a bunch of people who are just chancing it and applying for everything. So I don't think any recruiter would be offended by a direct message to say, I've applied for this job. I am very interested in working in this type of role for these reasons, or working for your company specifically for these reasons, just to show that you are a genuinely keen and credible candidate. You know, if that was me personally, I'm this side of the fence. If somebody makes that approach, it will at least make me read their application, where I might have maybe skimmed by their application. I'll read it properly, and then give them the benefit of the doubt and reach back out and ask any questions if there are areas where I think I'm not too sure, but they've obviously made the effort to reach out to me. In terms of identifying the right people, sometimes on job sites like LinkedIn and things, it will tell you who's posted the job. But if it doesn't, I would have a think about where probably does that role report to in the business, so who's likely to be the manager, and reach out to them via a LinkedIn connection request and say, I've seen this advert, I'm not sure if it's you directly hiring, but do you know who is? Or reach out to the talent acquisition team or the recruitment team or HR team, and with that question, don't assume that they are the right person, but ask the question, are you looking after this role, or is it somebody else you can introduce me to? The hardest part is, like I say, getting to the right person. But if you're polite and direct about it, there's no reason anyone should ignore that response and take offense at it.
Also, I would say, like, being a woman, and I know where you're coming from, because when you're entering this industry, you feel like you're slightly underneath people, but you're not. You are all equal. So don't worry to approach anyone. Just be bold. Like, that's what I learned. Just don't be afraid to be bold. If you find some interest on their LinkedIn profile that you have similar, mention it, make it more human, and in a way interact with them like someone you would meet at a party.
Okay.
Because just don't be afraid to approach anyone. Just if you are polite, the only thing what will happen, they will not get back. But this industry is about connections and networking and talking to people, and that will make a lot of difference for you going down the line, because you will get the first job, and then it's going to be about developing the relationships that you have.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Great. Well, I think that wraps us up for today. So thank you again, Dita, for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for everyone that joined us, because without your questions, these things aren't useful for everyone else. And like I said, this will be recorded and shared on social media and things, so anyone that wants to watch it back or share it with their friends. Have a great day.
Perfect. Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Dita.
Take care,
Thanks,
everyone.
Kevin.
Thank you,
Thanks,
guys.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.